Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com. That's kmdlaw.com. Or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents, they handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting either through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our shows, please be sure and check out our Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. You can go there, you can listen to the shows ad-free. Also, too, we have exclusive content that you won't hear on AM/FM or iHeartRadio or iTunes or Spreaker, any of that kind of stuff. And our archives are always free. You can go to Spreaker.com, find our archives. We play new content every Friday night. live. I'm doing a live. By the way, I moved the live segment to 8 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. So I'm more awake when I do the live segment on Friday nights. So check out Spreaker.com. Free to sign up, free to join. You get an email notification anytime new content goes up. We have today a guest, S. Brian Willson, has come to me highly recommended. He's a legendary figure in the resistance movement, peace movement, anti-war movement, pacifist. He's written a book about his life, Blood on the Tracks, The Life and Times of S. Brian Willson, where he describes a major sacrifice in his life he made in his pursuit of peace and justice for the average person. That's the book of Blood on the Tracks, but his website is brianwilson.com. You can also check him out in a documentary film called Paying the Price for Peace. And a second book we'll have him back to talk about one day is Don't Thank Me for My Service. Mr. Brian Willson, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell the audience about yourself. Who is S. Brian Willson?
Well, I was born in upstate New York, 1941, which makes me almost 80. I'm trying to get prepared for it. And I grew up in a small town, a rural town, religious family, very right-wing family, lower working class. And so I had a typical, in those days, I had a typical life. With the other kids in town. Nobody was rich. It was a kind of a poor town in general. And I went to school. I went to high school. I went to college. I went to law school in 1964. And by 1966, I was drafted into the military. Johnson had really escalated the draft calls, I think, in early '66 to like 330,000 a month. And I had a school deferment, but it in my case it didn't work. And so I enlisted rather than go in the Marines or the Army. I wasn't particularly interested in being a soldier, but I was for the war. So in those days, a person like me would have been called a chicken hawk. A hawk on the war, but a chicken didn't want to fight in the war. But I didn't have any particular politics or conscience other than the typical U.S. American,
Mom, apple pie, red, white, and blue.
Oh, they tell you, you gotta go. I didn't have any particular thought of leaving the country or going to trial. I didn't have that kind of a consciousness at the time. So I went in the Air Force for 4 years, and I went to Vietnam in 1969, and it was there in 1969 where I had a series of I call them epiphanies. I was 27 at the time, and they were very shocking for me. Kind of a country boy, kind of somewhat protected in a way, growing up in a small town. But I witnessed what we were doing, especially the bombings of villages, undefended, inhabited villages. It just completely shocked me. I was naive, but I thought maybe the intelligence is mistaken, or maybe, and I wasn't in an airplane, I was on the ground observing, and I thought, why are we just killing all these people? You know, they're just peasants. They're real people that are just trying to live their life. And so this was in April of '69. And I was so upset. My regular duty was the night security commander of an air base in the Mekong Delta. I had 40 men under my command. I was a first lieutenant. But I was so upset. I went to 7th Air Force headquarters at Tan Son Nhut in Saigon. I wanted to look at the bombing reports, and I wanted to look at the intelligence reports. This was the first time in my life I would say I was becoming assertive, because I was so disgusted about what was happening, and I needed an explanation. At 27 years of age, I'd been my 4th semester of law school, and by that time, I was starting to get a curiosity about life that I hadn't had before. But this was a shocking event that motivated me to try to discover an explanation. So I spent 3 hours with intelligence officers in Tan Son Nhut in 1969 in April. And after 3 hours of discussions, both the intelligence officers and myself concluded that these bombings were intentional to get body counts. And Nixon had been inaugurated in January of that year, and he had a policy called Vietnamization. Kind of a misnomer. I mean, the Vietnamese had been in the war all along, and we were training Vietnamese to be fighting with us. But the Vietnamization policy was an attempt to ease the tensions in the United States, to find a way to say we're winning, and so he wanted to escalate the body counts, which is just mass murder, basically, is what it was. And the easiest way to do that is you bomb villages that we know are not defended in the daylight, when it's easy for the pilots and they don't have any threat to them. It was just basically, I call it genocide, free fire zone. So that really just shook me up. And I was wondering what kind of history had I learned, what was my education all about, if I hadn't been able to ask any questions before that time about why we were 9,000 miles from my home in other people's villages, killing people that obviously never threatened us. So all of a sudden, I was beginning to develop a political awareness or a political curiosity to find out more deeply what's going on. So,
Mr. Willson, let me ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
The day you discovered this, okay, that you're responsible and you're part of a machine that's bombing innocent people just to drive up numbers for the President of the United States, and you went home that night.
Well, I went to my base.
Yeah, back to your bunk there, right?
Yeah.
Did you talk to anybody about this and confide in your friends and associates?
Well, initially I was so in shock.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anybody except the intelligence officers at Tan Son Nhut. And there was one intelligence officer there that we became very good friends, and we continued to discuss the criminality of the war. He was we were very much in agreement. And then I did talk a little bit to my NCO. I had a lifer NCO who was a very good NCO. And he hated Nixon, so we could have these discussions about politics, about hating Nixon, but he was a lifer. War for him was kind of his job. Mm-hmm. But he was very open to my comments. I was getting more and more outraged. But I didn't have anybody really to process with other than the intelligence officer in Saigon, and that was 90 miles away. I was initially suicidal. I thought somehow the cognitive dissonance between what I'd been taught all my life and what I was experiencing was so dramatic. I had to choose whether I was perceiving reality correctly or whether somehow or other I was imagining these things. I mean, it was really hard to accept that reality, which completely conflicted with what I had been taught. But there was no way I could avoid what I was experiencing. So for a short while, I was, I had my own pistol. It was easy to put it to my head if I wanted to, but I thought about it, and there was a couple of days when I was really, really contemplating suicide. I obviously didn't do it. And I started reading profusely history while I was there. We had a little library, and I started reading everything I could about Vietnam, about the history of the French, and I was just dumbfounded at how stupid I was, how dumbed down I was. And I was 27, and I was a college graduate in my fourth semester of law school, and I realized, the education system is just pumping up brainwashing. That's how I experienced it. And so I spoke out against the war every day from that point on to my superiors, which was not cool, of course. But I was doing my job. Which was a critical job of night security of an airbase, protecting us from sapper attacks and mortar attacks and rocket attacks. So I did my job, but I was very distressed, and I spoke out against the war enough that in August, early August, I was ordered back to the States. And I had another year to do in the military. I didn't know what was going to happen, maybe a court-martial. But I was sent to Louisiana for a year. And
at this time, were you in communication with your parents and your family and friends back home? Were you expressing your... No?
I wasn't talking to anybody. I certainly wasn't going to talk to my parents, who... my father was a member of the John Birch Society, and I never was into that kind of right-wing politics in my home. I was an athlete, so I mostly was out of the house playing sports. But no, I didn't want to subject my parents to, I just didn't feel safe talking to them, or even my brother, my older brother. Because it was so emotional and so shocking. And later, I did talk to my parents a little bit, maybe a couple, 3 years later, and my father would just say, "Well, they're communists. They're communists. What do? You kill them." And I didn't want to engage in that kind of conversation. It made me sick. So. The last year in the military in Louisiana, I was very involved politically against the war on weekends. I also was very involved in desegregation of the schools. I was meeting with a blacks and whites meeting every week to discuss the racial situation and the integration process. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. Listening to these stories of people living in central Louisiana, both black and white, for the first time meeting together. So that was kind of eye-opening. I had also, while I was in law school, I had lived in the D.C. jail for 10 and a half months. That was part of my chosen work in law school to get credit. I wanted to do something more specific than just go to class. So I lived in the D.C. jail 10 and a half months. I interviewed 1,500 prisoners over the course of that time. And that was an eye-opening experience. And I also, while I was there, I attended the Black Muslim meetings every week. Another eye-opening experience. These were before I got into the military. So it was some preparation for a reality beyond what I had ever experienced.
Let me ask you this: if you're active duty military and you're there in Louisiana attending these kind of desegregation meetings and stuff like that, and anti-war meetings, there must have been surveillance. You must have been a prime target for.
I got called into the wing commander's office, I think 4 times while I was there. But I said I'm not doing anything illegal, or I'm exercising my supposedly First Amendment rights, and being a white male, and I'd been listening to all these stories of blacks, realizing that being a white male is very privileged, and actually kind of a disability, because it cuts off your sensitivity to seeing things without the filter of the privilege. So I got into some trouble, but I just continued doing it. By that time I didn't care if they wanted to get me out or court-martial me. So be it. I didn't know if I was going to be court-martialed anyways, but I wasn't, which was kind of a surprise. And I got through that whole year. It was a great experience being in Louisiana, just from an educational point of view. And I was the supply squadron executive officer, so I worked for a major it wasn't even in my career field. They were just putting me there for my last year. It was fine. I had a little Volkswagen Beetle with flower decals all over it, which was kind of very conspicuous on that base. At first, when I reported to the base after Vietnam in my Volkswagen, they wouldn't let me enter the base. They said, well, this is political paraphernalia. And I said, no, these are just flower decals. So I had to go to the chief of security police of the base and have a discussion. I said, this is my vehicle. I was living off base, so I came every day to the base from my apartment in Alexandria. And the captain was very reasonable. He said, well, technically it violates some Air Force regulation about political material. I said, these are just flowers. But he said, we just won't salute you. As an officer, when you come through the base, they salute you. You have a little sticker on your bumper that indicates your rank. And he said, we just won't salute you when you enter the base. I said, that's fantastic. And we shook on it. And so I came to the base every day, and the security policeman at the entrance, of course, would not salute me, and I didn't care whether they saluted me or not. So that was actually a reasonable resolution to that. But basically, I got through that year. I played a lot of softball, a lot of basketball. We had a squadron team, so I was on the softball team and the basketball team. I was the only officer on the team, I think. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sports. But I got through that year. I spent a lot of time at Angola Penitentiary on the weekends. I was interested in the whole criminal injustice system from my law school, my 2 years in law school, and also living at the D.C. jail. So it was a productive year in terms of education. But then when I got out, without any court-martial, as a captain, I went right back to law school and finished. I got out in September of 1970, and I was in law school within 3 days. And in that period of time, I had been out of law school since '66. Oh. They let me back. They let me back in 1970 because of the military intervention, and it was kind of an exception. But when I was in law school earlier, there was a dress code in '66. When I came back in '70, there was no dress code. All the males had beards and beads and sandals, and I think, wow, I missed the whole cultural revolution, which was fine with me. I wasn't that formal anyways. So I finished law school, passed the bar exam, And then realized that I was so alienated from the society, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was kind of thinking I was going to be a criminal lawyer. But after 3 or 4 times in the courtroom, and my first as a rookie times, I realized that I didn't even want to stand for the judge. I didn't want to look at the flag. I was I was just very upset at these symbols. And even the judge walking in the courtroom and you stand up, well, to me, that was just I was just very sensitive to symbols and protocols that no longer commanded my respect or my attention. I mean, they commanded my attention, but not in a traditional way. So I left the law, and that was kind of embarrassing in a way. But I was not going to. I was just kind of disgusted about the whole system. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. But one thing after another led to various experiences in which I kind of became an activist for justice reform. And then a few years later, focusing on U.S. foreign policy. And I realized, gee whiz, the whole damn history that I learned and the notion about the United States was all BS. And I started profusely studying history again, as I had been doing in Vietnam. So I just kept doing interesting work that were falling in my lap, that were kind of activist jobs. And I kept studying history, and realized that when you learn a fake history and you have a fake identity as a white male, you have not learned a genuine account of what's happened both before I was born and since I was born. I was considered a good student in school, not a phenomenal student, but I was considered a good student. But I thought, gee, all that education was grooming me to be a cog in the machine. And I guess I wasn't meant to be a cog in the machine. I don't know if anybody is, but we get conditioned early in life. I'm sure this happens in every culture. But in the United States, we were told we were the greatest, and we were the best. And I no longer believe that. So I shaped the way I viewed life and the decisions I was making. I was married at the time to a lawyer who liked the law. I was, kind of out of the formal legal system, although I was doing work that required, or that seemingly my law degree helped. I was a lobbyist for 4 years for the Unitarian Universal Service Committee, justice reform, so I was working in Washington a lot. Learned a lot about how a bill becomes a law. Ha ha ha. That was quite an experience. How a bill becomes a law. Yeah, remember that in civics class? How a bill becomes a law. Realizing that it happens in a very different manner than the way we learned it. At any rate, I was just getting more and more radical and more alienated, but at the same time I was meeting new friends who were very interesting and had points of view that both provoked me to learn more and also supported my position. My parents pretty much were embarrassed by what happened to their son, so we weren't very close. We didn't talk much all through the 70s. It just wasn't, when I would visit, they would, I didn't visit often, but I visited them at least once a year. But they just denigrated me. I'm an adult. They couldn't fathom what happened to their Baptist boy son, who, was. I actually, when I was younger, I applied to the FBI to be an FBI agent. That's and I don't know why J. Edgar Hoover sent me a rejection letter. I thought I was the perfect candidate. This was before the military.
Really?
This was when I was in my third year of undergraduate college.
Where did you go to college in D.C.?
Pardon me?
Where did you go to college in D.C.?
American University.
My daughter goes there right now.
Pardon me?
My daughter attends American University right now.
Okay. I also went to George Washington University earlier. American University was the law school. George Washington University was part of my undergraduate, but I transferred out of George Washington to a Baptist college where I thought maybe I was going to study for the ministry. This was all early 60s. But even at the Baptist college, where I was pretty committed to going into the ministry, it was at that college where I started questioning religion. Which was another shocking thing. Just questioning religion, wow. But, once the questions start coming, you can either repress them or you can kind of go with them. I wouldn't say that I was bold with my questions, because I was kind of shy and timid and insecure, but it was changing the way I was thinking about religion, and I decided to go from the idea of the ministry into law school. That happened in 1964. So, life is a journey. You have many experiences. You never know what's going to happen. You think you know what's going to happen, and usually doesn't happen that way. At least that's in my case. And so you have to kind of understand that life has its own energy, and I was conditioned to be a very straight guy in the United States, and that was not going to work for me anymore. So I had to find another way, which was fine. It actually was a blessing that I actually had an awakening, especially in Vietnam. It was such an incredible awakening, realizing all these people on the ground that were dead from napalm were just peasants, and and I mean, I was crying. I was sick. I was just. At any rate, it changed me.
And we can't forget, too, that as we sit here right now talking, the same thing is going on due to U.S. bombs all over the world. Right now, as we talk, people are crawling up.
At almost 80, I'm still... It's really hard to get up in the morning and realize that the same stuff is happening. The same sickness, the same... there's not a lot of people in the United States that are very interested in being awake.
Especially not with overseas oppression and brutality. Maybe locally when it's in your face on TV, but overseas, here we're very easily.
But now it's come home.
Yeah.
It's coming home.
But let me, we have to take a commercial break, okay? This is a good time to get a little break here. We are with S. Brian Willson, okay? His website is brianwillson.com. We're talking today mostly about his early life, which is covered in the book Blood on the Tracks, The Life and Times of Brian Willson. But he's written another book, too, Don't Thank Me for My Service, My Vietnam Awakening, to the long history of U.S. lies. Also, too, that he's involved in a documentary film project where you can catch, you have to Google it to look for it, Paying the Price for Peace. We'll be right back with more of Brian Willson after these messages. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
Thank you so much for listening to the Opperman Report. I want to welcome all our new listeners at WWPR 1490 AM in the Tampa Bay area. We're brand new down here. We're getting a nice warm welcome. We have great advertising opportunities for local sponsors, local businesses, but also international websites and international companies too on our other stations in California, Nevada, Utah, and on the internet worldwide. But down here in Tampa Bay, Florida, we have some great opportunities for you to come in and get very, very affordable advertising rates. Get a hold of me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and we'll cut you a good deal. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. The Opperman Report is brought to you by aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. Today we're here with S. Brian Willson. You can find his website at brianwillson.com. We're talking about the book, well, the other book is Don't Thank Me for My Service. We'll be talking about that the next time he comes back. But today we're talking about Blood on the Tracks, The Life and Times of S. Brian Willson, and also to keep an eye out for this documentary film called Paying the Price for Peace. So, Brian, you were telling us that we were about around the 1980s. You were telling us about your life. What happened at this point?
Yeah, well, I was head of a Veterans Outreach Center for a while in Massachusetts, and then from there I decided I wanted to come to Central America to see for myself, because I was reading profusely about the history of U.S. and Latin America, and that included Reagan's policies. So I went to language school in Nicaragua in '86 on a veterans scholarship, so I didn't have to pay for traveling, and the tuition. I spent 2 months in Nicaragua in '86, and I was experiencing counterattacks not too far from where I was living and studying, and so I was just getting more and more outraged at seeing the bodies coming into the cemeteries. And so from that experience, unfortunately, I didn't learn the Spanish very well, so I couldn't converse very successfully in Spanish, so I had to express my outrage in English. And I wound up meeting other veterans who felt the same way I did. And in the fall of 1986, we went on a open-ended water-only fast on the east steps of the U.S. Capitol, protesting Reagan's terrorist wars in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. There were 4 of us. And we sat there drinking water for, as it turned out, 47 days. When one of our members was near death, and we had to decide whether to stop the fast or to continue the fast and die one by one, which is what we thought we were going to do. But it's different when you're together for 40-some days and one of you is now getting sick. You have to think about it again. So we stopped the fast to 47 days. We didn't know we were having much of an impact, but we had received word from about 500 locations in the United States where people were doing something in solidarity with our fast to protest U.S. policy in Central America. And then I found out later, a year later, that we had been considered domestic terrorist suspects. Now, that's another, just another shocking revelation. What? What? But in the meantime, after the fast, I went to Nicaragua several more times and went into the war zones with other veterans, and we were documenting a lot of atrocities and sometimes ducking, having to hide from the Contras. And then in June and July of 1987, Congress kept funding Reagan's policies. So we went to the base in California where these weapons were coming from, the Concord, California Naval Weapons Station, 35 miles east of San Francisco. And we began a vigil at that base to block the trucks and the trains bringing the weapons out from the bunkers to the ships in the Sacramento River that would take them to El Salvador and Nicaragua. So we started blocking in June 10th, I believe, 1987. And people were getting arrested, but only one person had tried to block the train, and the train's only a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit. So it's easy to. The train is easy to stop if something's on the tracks. The train is carrying very volatile munitions, so you don't take. They had to. The regulations were very careful about how that train moved and didn't ever move to hit any obstruction. Of course, you wouldn't. Even a box on the tracks would be.
Or a cow or a coyote or something.
Or a cow or a car or a person or anything. So I decided on the anniversary of the fast from the year before, which we started on September 1st, 86, that I would begin a 40-day fast on the tracks with 2 other veterans on September 1st, 87. And notifying the base, notified my Congress people, said this is what I'm going to be doing for 40 days. Probably be in jail. But by that time, I was just interested in educating people about how atrocious U.S. policy is. And so on that day, we took our position on the tracks. Just before noon, the first train came. The trains came a couple times a day. And we took our positions, and I fully expected to be arrested and taken to jail. The penalty for blocking the train was identified on a sign right near our vigil, which said 1 year in prison and a $5,000 fine. So we knew we might be doing a year in prison. This is this country boy that was pretty naive 20 years earlier. But here I was, thinking, okay, I'll be in jail for a year. Well, the train, the 5-mile-an-hour train sped up to 17 miles an hour, and I didn't get out of the way in time. The other 2 guys One jumped to the left at the last minute, and the other one jumped straight up and grabbed the railing on the front of the locomotive, which is above the cow catcher. And I went under, because I was sitting in a lotus position, and they were crouched on their feet.
Gotcha.
And I tried to get out of the way. I was too late, because I didn't think they were going to run. It was unheard of. So, at any rate, I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. I did not know what happened. I, to this day, have no memory. About 40 of my friends were there, most of them Vietnam veterans or other activist friends that were opposed to U.S. wars. And so they all witnessed it. And, of course, my friend was videoing he was there to video my arrest to make sure that if there was any abuse, it was on tape. Well, he got the train assault. He was so shocked, he dropped his camera, initially, he told me. So I lost both legs below the knee. I had a severe fractured skull, destroyed my right frontal lobe, my brain, broken shoulders, broken arms, cracked ribs. It was amazing I survived.
You got hit by a train, yeah.
Yeah, a 200,000-pound train.
Yeah.
Hitting a 220-pound man. So that was in 1987. I was in the hospital 29 days, I think. And when I got out, I had to learn to walk on prostheses, which wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I had a good prosthetist in San Francisco. So I've never had a lot of problems with my legs. I've had good fits with the prosthetic devices, so I haven't had a lot of discomfort. And I've been it enabled me to be fairly regular in my activist life.
Let me ask you a question. Do you regret taking that action that day?
No. I don't regret it. Of course I didn't. It wasn't conceivable that the train was going to run. But I had told the base in both letter form and in attempt to have a meeting with the commander before that day. And I was saying, look, these trains are moving munitions to kill civilians. This is in violation of international law. And under Nuremberg, citizens are obligated to uphold international law, and if their government is violating the law, I said I have a duty to interrupt it. So I wasn't, in my mind, I was doing something very, very healthy, according to law and to conscience. And I did what I was said I was going to do. And the train crew was still following orders. They were all Vietnam vets. They were civilians working for the Navy, but they'd been in Vietnam. They were still following orders, and I said, I'm not following orders anymore. I'm trying to educate people in my society about the atrocious nature of our foreign policy.
Let me ask you this question, because we're getting toward the end. Now, somewhere along the line, you made a conscious decision to resist peacefully, non-violently. Was there ever a time where you considered a more proactive, offensive resistance?
I was pretty proactive.
I mean violent. I mean using arms.
I had studied Gandhi. Okay. I studied Tolstoy. I had studied Thoreau. I was so disgusted with what we did in Vietnam. I said, I've got to find another way than thinking of killing somebody or hurting somebody intentionally. So I'd been studying nonviolence for years. And I wasn't even opposed to people being violent, if that's what they felt they had to do. But I was opposed to it for myself, because I realized that all my privileges as a white male came from centuries of violence, preserving white exceptionalism, and I couldn't justify using violence for myself, because my privilege all came from violence.
And looking back now, do you think? How do you feel? Do you feel that we've made advances, or do you feel that things are getting worse?
I think they're getting worse.
Yeah.
I think that the U.S. population is pretty dumbed down in a way. There are a lot of young people that have been enlivened by George Floyd's torture murder, and that's a good sign. But really, we are a nation that bombs people as we shop. Unfortunately, the pandemic has stopped the shopping. Fortunate or unfortunate, but I mean, it's been another provocative event that has shown how incapable capitalism is to deal with these kinds of issues. And so we have an economic problem, we have a pandemic problem, we have a moral problem of not considering other people as valuable as us. I would say that we kind of lost empathy. It's so easy to be in the United States. It's so easy to be disassociated with what's happening around the world. And once I'd been in Vietnam, I couldn't do that anymore. And once I'd been in Nicaragua, I also spent time with the guerrillas in El Salvador. So I was very sensitive to the fact that we're not worth more and they're not worth less. But that's how we've been conditioned in white exceptionalism. It's like a illness that has. It's equivalent to a disability because it really, really retards our capacity to critically think, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, recently I had a guest on the show. I forget who it was, and we talked about the profit of the U.S. military. How it's just based on, it's a money-making operation.
Yes.
And when you think about how tragic it is that the one way we've stooped to making money is through pain and tragedy. And genocide, like you said, and that's what we've chosen as our route to a fortune.
Well, that's how we started out. I studied a lot of the early history in the 16 and 1700s. We've always been this way. I think we probably have documented. Historians have documented several thousands of massacres against the indigenous. And then, of course, we had slavery, enslaved people. I mean, it's a really draconian history, and it established our cultural DNA. I think we never had to pay a price for stealing land and stealing labor, killing millions with impunity. I mean, we're still living with impunity, and that means we haven't gone very deep.
Well, let me ask you this, because we only have 2 minutes left. Again, I want to have you back. I've really enjoyed this, and I have a lot of respect. And thank you for your service to us in the last since you left the Army. Okay, all right, but the Air Force. But what do you want to leave us with this time? And I'm going to beg you to come back.
Well, I just think that the United States now, there's no way that voting and legislation is going to save the United States. It's too far gone. It's too irredeemable. It's too unreformable. It's too corrupt, and it's been that way for a long time. And really, the only avenue I find that's worth really seriously considering is total disruption in the streets, meaning the beginnings of a social revolution. And that may be in the works now. Unfortunately, we also have these right-wing people, which I grew up with those people, heavily armed, and they're very scared because their white privilege is at stake. I think that's an unconscious feeling they have, and therefore they're terrified that they're going to lose their identity. And they form a formidable force, but I think that majority of people, if they were to really recognize what's happening, the only way that they're going to have a better life in the future is if they dominate the streets, occupy the streets until the system falls.
Like a yellow vest movement in this country, like we saw, was very successful, effective in France.
It still happens.
Mr. Wilson, thank you so much.
I took credit. I took inspiration from the Yellow Vest movement.
So we're in a lot of agreement here on a lot of things. I really appreciate this. We're out of time. The book people should get, the first one is Blood on the Tracks, The Life and Times of S. Brian Willson. The second book is Don't Thank Me for My Service, My Vietnam Awakening to the Long History of U.S. Lies. The documentary film you could check out is Paying the Price for Peace, BrianWillson.com.
You have to know there's two L's in the Wilson.
Oh, is there? I didn't even notice that. Wilson, Willson. Brian Willson. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good night. And now a word from our sponsors. OppermanReport.com. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like the work that you see us doing here at Opperman Report? You can support that work by becoming a member at OppermanReport.com. And as you have access to over 200 exclusive shows and interviews that you can't find on YouTube or Spreaker or iHeart or iTunes or KYAH. You can't find them anywhere else online, exclusive to our member sections, to our members. Also, too, there's images, videos, documents, court docs. And don't forget, you can hear your ad played here on the Opperman Report, reach hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis because the show is repeated every day all over the world. Contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and I'll give you a good deal on advertising rates.
Have you ever thought about opening your own mobile cart or kiosk business? Maybe the facility you manage could establish new revenue by adding coffee, food, or retail services. Cart King International can be the answer to your needs. Cart King is a North American designer and manufacturer of the finest mobile coffee, food, and retail carts and kiosks. Cart King has been working with clients and corporations across North America for 20 years, providing innovative designs, custom manufacturing, and timely delivery. Carts and kiosks are fun, and so are the dozens of designs on our website. Please visit us today at www.cart-king.com or just call us at 1-877-986-7771 and get your sales rolling.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119.
Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
If you find yourself in need of legal representation, it can be a very stressful time in your life. In my career, I have dealt with thousands of lawyers, I've dealt with thousands of law firms, and I can confidently recommend to you Keith M. Davidson at kmdlaw.com. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com, or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. That's 833-4KMD-LAW. Personal injury, wrongful death, STDs, sexual assault, car accidents, they handle it all efficiently and professionally. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Go to kmdlaw.com or call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with pure soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.